Nosy parents of teenagers, what do you wish you shouldn't have seen? Not a parent, but a witness to their finding something they didn't want to see. I work IT, and the guy had his daughter's computer that was having issues opening some photo application and needed it fixed. As we're going through and checking if it worked yet, opened up and presented an image of his daughter, naked, holding a huge dildo. No words were exchanged. I'm a parent, so one weekend my wife and I are chilling out in bed watching whatever garbage on TV when our youngest son, 11, comes in and says the oldest brother, 13, is looking at porn on his tablet. So, we call for the oldest son, and he denies it, of course. So we tell him to bring me his tablet. He hasn't learned the art of incognito browsing or clearing history completely. So going through his history, well, I'll be damned. He is looking at porn. And not just any porn, though. Some anime stuff, some adult raunchy stuff, but the real kicker was the Scooby-Doo porn. Fred effing Velma, Shaggy effing Daphne, Velma doing Daphne, etc. So Mom leaves the room to let Dad and his son talk about this. Starts off with the usual, okay, don't lie, you can't hide this crap from me. If I go through your browsing history, it's okay to masturbate, in private, of course, you're growing up, yada yada yada. I finish the conversation, give him his tablet back, but as he's walking to the door, I can't help but do my best, also worse, Scooby impression. But Shaggy, followed by zoinks, jinkies, and ruh-roh, found your porn. His face got so red and I just lost it. I was in tears. Now, every so often, when he starts to cop an attitude with us, I just go zoinks to him. And the kicker of it all, youngest son comes into the room with, I was only joking. I didn't know he really was. This guy deserves the Dad of the Year award for his amazing sense of humor and light-hearted parenting techniques. Slow clap for this hero. Not only did he go to great lengths to avoid exposing the kid's mom to some traumatic guy stuff, but he did it with grace. However, I bet after the dust settled on the situation, how does that dad not wonder what the heck went wrong for his son to be into Scooby-Doo porn? He's probably wondering if he let him watch too many cartoons as a kid or something. Strange stuff. As a kid, it seemed like no matter where you hid crap, your mother would find it. I had a nice stash of spank mags when I was a young teen and decided I would hide them in one of my guitar cases, even behind the guitar. My mother would have absolutely no reason whatsoever to open one of those. She still found them and acted like she wasn't looking for anything. When we moved houses and all the stuff was in the new place, one of the moving guys called me out to double check the receipt, and when we were out of my mom's earshot and eyeline, he handed me the weed pipe that had fallen out of the hidey hole in the back of my desk when they were moving it. I raised a daughter as a single father. Now, I am not a natural snoop. I try not to be too nosy, but the worst part for me was having her around my mom. My mom is more nosy than any 5 people I have ever met. My mom was left alone in my house with just a dog when my daughter was 15. My daughter is now in her mid-20s, and I still have not heard the last from my mom about her having 3 different vibrators and is therefore somehow perverted. She hasn't lived at home since she left for college at 18, and I'm still hearing about it. Come on, Grandma, just because your sexuality withered and died 40 years ago doesn't mean that you need to shame those who still have a heartbeat and like to get off. Would the grandma feel better somehow if this girl only had 1 vibrator? I'm not sure if she is upset about the vibrators in general or the variety of them. If she is okay with 1, why not 3? Variety is the spice of life. Not a parent. This happened a couple years ago when I still lived with my mom and stepmom. My stepsister used to live in my room, and it had been nearly a year since she moved out. I had a vibrating dildo that my best friend had bought me as a joke, but not really a joke, for a birthday gift. I used it frequently, and I would hide it in the bottom of a drawer in my closet, hidden in a hat. My mom decided to snoop and found it, but somehow thought it was my stepsister's, and she kept it. I asked her about it, and she was blown away by the fact that I masturbated, but she was going to send the toy in the mail back to my sister without telling her. Now that would have been a disaster. I'm not a parent, but on my 16th birthday, my girlfriend at the time was over, and we were in my room watching a movie just chilling. So I went downstairs at a point during the movie, leaving the girlfriend in the room to go get a drink of water. Whilst downstairs, my mother asked me if I had any laundry to be done. Now, this wouldn't be strange for most 16-year-old guys, but I had been doing my own laundry since I was 14 due to my parents regularly being away for days at a time for work. I was confused, but just replied, no, I did some yesterday. I'm checking anyway. So she did. I got my glass of water and one for the girlfriend and started my path back to my room when two shrill screams come from that direction. So I run to the door, and my mother storms out, eyes to the ground, and grumbles, "I'm never going into your effing room again." I enter the room, perplexed, only to find my girlfriend wrapped in a bedsheet on the bed, her clothes strewn on the ground, and she had sat on the edge of the bed with nothing on whatsoever when my mother walked in. The night was ruined, and my mother never entered my room again. I'm sure she regrets being such a nosy fool. There is no doubt that the mom sat outside her son's room plotting a way that she could snoop in his room. She just needed an excuse to get in there and make sure there wasn't any funny business going on. But be careful what you wish for, because your son was doing exactly what you worried he was doing, and I bet she doesn't feel any better about the situation. Should have just trusted your gut and hoped that the talk that you did with him was listened to. Not a parent, but went to take a pee in a stall at school and found a cell phone on the TP dispenser. It didn't have a lock screen. So I thought I would search in the contacts for someone the owner spoke to regularly, like mom or whoever, to send them a text like, "Hey, found your son's phone, it'll be with campus security." As soon as I swiped to unlock, it opened to a Google image search result for sexy she-males. I wiped the browser history, turned it into security, and went about my day like nothing happened. It was at that moment I realized how numb I was to odd stuff. So I have a bunch of weird sleep issues, and one of them is the ability to hold conversations with people while I am in a deep sleep, and I have no memory of the conversations. My mom found out about this when I was a teenager, and apparently she would sneak into my room in the middle of the night, and Sleep Me would dish out all the scoop, like who was having a party, who I liked, which of my friends made bad life choices, everything. She would never punish me for it, but then would give me advice based on what Sleep Me confessed. And it always confused me on how much she knew about my life. When I'm extra tired or stressed, this comes back, and apparently I've had hilarious conversations with my husband. I also recently discovered that I passed this trait on to my son. So part of me is tempted to get the scoop from my kid, but another part of me wants to respect his personal space. Yeah, that is an unfortunate trait to have, but at least you probably have a much closer relationship with your mom than most. Like it or not, she knows you on an intimate level, and it would be darn near impossible to keep anything from her. At least the mom didn't seem to abuse this power, but by not getting her kid into trouble from stuff she learned through deep sleep interrogation techniques. I'm not really a parent, but I suppose the easiest classification here would be stepmom. So when wandering around my boyfriend's ex-mom's property to visit his daughter, she has custody and lives with her mom, we found a noose strung up in a tree in the back of this forest. She was 12 at the time. About a week or two later, her mom, the ex, found a suicide note back there. It was written in Crayola marker and filled with, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It was absolutely heartbreaking to read. So we've all tried to rally around her, and we're definitely not a normal family. And it's been hard on his daughter. She's doing better now and has a ton of great friends, but it was about the worst thing to find. Since that time, there has been a lot of talk about being open about feelings, and she's talked to school counselors, and her mom is trying to pay more attention to her. When my boyfriend and I are able to have her with us, we play Dungeons & Dragons with her, and she's hooked on it. Seriously, other than homework, she spends all of her time making modules and writing character backstory. You know, it was a chilling discovery that day in the forest, but it could have been far worse. She could have been in the noose, and now we're a lot closer. Not a parent, but this scenario is kind of the other way around. I found an uncomfortably large vibrator in my mom's room once while I was looking for candy, which she often hoards. Oh, and it wasn't the cheap kind either. They didn't spare any realism when they made that thing, so even worse, I thought it was a flashlight. Now you can imagine my surprise when the flashlight had veins. And of course, the most traumatizing part was when I pressed the button, and instead of illuminating the drawer, it vibrated intensely. Took me a half hour to find out how to turn it off. Apparently, the thing was so fancy that the same button that turns it on doesn't turn it off. Who designed this thing? Everybody knows that the key to a successful adult toy is simplicity and ease of use. When the mood strikes, you need that device to work quickly and reliably. Also, I suppose it's not a stretch to confuse a flashlight with that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure that's a real thing. Back in high school, my friend Allie's house was right next to our campus. I wasn't allowed to go hang out after school, though no boys were unless her mother was home. Why? Because mom had walked in on Allie giving a guy oral in the basement one day. The only reason I actually know this story is because one day I was there with parental supervision, and when my mom has to leave for errands, she says, "Well, I wish I could leave you guys here alone, but I guess Allie really blew that chance." I have never seen a teenager turn that red. My mom taught me how to wash my own clothes at 6. She honestly hated doing the laundry that much. For my birthday once, I turned down her offer of $100 to instead just do my laundry, adding that it would absolutely appeal to me that much. She still wouldn't do it and left the Benjamin in my coat pocket. So being a late bloomer, I took a girl home to meet my parents and did it for the first time at 21 in their basement, as many young men do. And not wanting her to find the condom in the garbage can, I emptied the rubber and pocketed it. I then changed clothes so I wouldn't smell like the deed. And you guessed it, 90 minutes later, I see my mom folding my clothes. You're doing my laundry for the first time in 15 years. And you of course checked the pockets. She folded quietly, looking down. Yes, Jonathan, I found the condom. 8 years ago, and that was, and likely always will be, the last time she did my laundry. That is some odd divine intervention there. Of all the times for the mom to do laundry, she picks the time when the stars aligned and there was a prophylactic hanging out in her son's pants. If she ever needed any more reasons to not do laundry for her son, that was the sign from above for sure. And now that poor kid will forever have an embarrassing moment attached to losing his virginity in the basement.